work for us. So having setups that are easily adjustable, can default accounts in, can default the length of time, things that you want to have set up more in depth so that you're not having to go in and make changes as much to the system. We're going to talk about how easily it is to take an asset that you purchase and have to make a check or payment to a vendor, how easy it is to push that into fixed assets. And with our advanced setups, how it makes it easier, where you really don't have to change anything. You just save it and it's automatically set up for you. We're going to go through some smart lists and show you the smart lists that there are and how that can help you with reconciling, how it can help you with looking at how the asset is set up and how much you have left to depreciate and things like that. And then we're going to get into an inquiry window that not a lot of people know about, and is one of the most powerful inquiry windows when it comes to globally seeing what's happened with an asset. So I'm going to jump into my GP. Look at the cute baby. Deflect. Okay. So in GP, under financial is where you get to your fixed asset pieces. And I'm going to bring over my setup portion of it. The first thing we're going to talk about is setting up your book classes to really work for you. Now, the book is which book you're actually doing your depreciation into. It tells you what the calendar ID is. Normally, people only have one calendar ID, what the current fiscal period is, and the depreciation period, or how you depreciate, whether it's by month or by day. The book class, well, okay, so let's go to the class. The class basically gives you your class ID. It tells you if you want to default the asset number in when you're creating your next asset. It gives you your account group. And your account group basically tells you where you want your depreciation to go. So I have a few set up here. And the computer one is set up with all of the different GL accounts for computers. So what the expense is, what the accumulated depreciation is, where your prior year depreciation goes, where your asset goes. So when you're looking at your class, you attribute your class and your book together to make your book class. This is what tells you, based on your book and based on your class, how many years that asset is going to depreciate for and what your depreciation method is. I'm going to change this depreciation to original life straight line. We're going to do a full month, and we're not going to have a switch over. So, but if you look at how this is set up, when I bring in an asset, if I pick a book and the class ID, it's going to default this information for me. And so that if we set up our book classes more granular on our number of years, then you can get less of the setup where you're having to go in and change anything. And by that I mean, yep, I do want to save those. When I go into my cards for my asset and I'm setting up a brand new asset, I'm choosing the class which defaults in my GL accounts and my insurance class ID. And then I'm choosing my asset number. So I'm just going to call it Tammy's Demo, and Tammy's demo item. Now, all the information I can put in here, the date I acquired it, we'll say today, the acquisition costs. Oh, well, let's not do that much. Let's do something that's easily. Let's do that. And the rest of this information you can just fill in. When I hit my go to and I go to my account, because I had my class in here, oops, first I have to save it. So I'll save my, when I go to my account, you'll notice that there was a checkbox here. That means that the account information was defaulted from the class. So you'll notice that all of my class GL accounts came in. When I look at my book, which is where my book class comes into effect, you'll see that this has populated the 5 years. It's saying that my place in service date is today's date. I can change that if I want to, and that it hasn't depreciated at all because that's the same date. But here's the information that it defaulted in. So when you set up your book class and you set them up to be more granular, so computers can depreciate at 5 years, they can depreciate at 3 years. Some may depreciate at 2 years. If you set up your book class to be more granular on what you want it to be called, you can then have a book class that's a 2-year depreciation and you default to 2 years. The point of this is that we want to get to an area where you're not having to add anything in. You can go in when you bring in your asset, fill in the few things that you have to do on the first asset page, hit save, and it automatically downloads or pushes everything out that needs to be set up for this asset to go into depreciation right away. That way, it's only taking you 4 clicks to choose the ID you want, select your class, choose the ID you want, and then the type of asset that you're doing and any of the additional information required by your company being put in. One step easier is this purchase button. So that's the other thing I wanted to talk about today, is that in your advanced setups, when we looked at the class ID, as long as you have your, I'm going to bring over my setup again. As long as you have your company set up to bring your payables or your purchase order processing over to fixed assets and to delete the asset after it's done, you have a clearing account in here. When you use the clearing account and payables, it will automatically attach that to your fixed assets to be brought in. And you saw that when you'll notice that this button here that says purchase on here is how it gets into your system. So when your AP department actually utilizes the clearing account and not the fixed asset account, it will automatically bring that information in for you. That means that this information here isn't something that needs to be brought in. You can click on your purchase button here and you'll notice that I have quite a few assets in here that I can bring in. Or you also have a drop down here that gives you the same information, whichever way you want it to go. So I'm going to hit my purchase button, and I'm going to say I want to bring in this receipt. I'm going to bring in Bring in this receipt. So this receipt brought in a $10,000 asset from John Deere. It gave me the asset ID associated with it. And if I hit my go-to, if I save this, here's my window. Well, let's do a new one. Transaction purchasing, we'll just do a quick one here. So I'm going to create a new asset, and I'm going to say it's a computer for Tammy. And I'm going to put in computer, let's see, let's go with advanced office systems. And I'm going to bring in a $1,500 computer. On my distributions, you'll notice that this system, oh, let's take the taxes out because we don't need taxes. We're going to put in here the 0001590 because that's my fixed asset clearing account. I'm going to okay this. And so now you'll notice that this is going to my fixed asset clearing account. That is going to, I'm going to post this. That is going to allow me to pick this asset up in my fixed asset systems. So I'm going to go cards, fixed asset, general. And I'm going to look for my advanced, which is right down here on this piece. I'm going to pick up this asset here and I'm going to attach it to my piece. Now you'll notice that my acquisition costs came in from this already. And if I click on my blue arrow next to my acquisition cost, I can see where this transaction came from. And if I needed to, I could drill back and see the actual entry. So if it was attached to a purchase order, I would see the shipment invoice for it and all of the pertinent information that I would need from this piece. When I hit save here, you'll notice that my account, again, is set up based on the class that I have set up. It's coming into that piece. As well as if I go into my book, because I had my book class set up, I have my 5 years associated with this. So you can really cut down a bunch of information that you wouldn't need to if you had this set up properly. When you went into the purchase, I wouldn't have had to go in and do the account in the book because I would have already known that it was set up. So I could have just selected my class, my asset ID, hit my purchase, and brought it into this window with the acquisition costs, and I could have just saved and went on to the next one. If you guys have any questions, just let me know. I am looking at my questions. So if you have any questions, you can stop me. So we went through how to set up the advanced setups to make the system push properly for you. We talked about the purchasing to fixed assets, and I showed you how those are set up so that you can just bring in the data from payables or purchase order and just save it and be done with it. Makes your life a little bit more easier. You don't have a lot of setup you have to do. Choose the class, put in the asset ID if it's not auto assigned, and then save, because everything else is set up. So the next place I want to show you is the smart lists. So people don't really realize how much smart lists can help with your fixed assets. I know that there's only 3 in here, but realistically, the first one is for all of your assets that you're set up. So if you want to see all of the assets that are in your system that are currently depreciating, you can do that. By using the column button, you can pull in not only your acquisition costs, and if we choose all columns, you can see the date that it was acquired on, which is right there. You can also see your depreciated amount, depreciation expense information. You can see where it was last depreciated on. So you have all of this information that you can see information on. And it's basically pulling from your main window of your asset. Let me cancel these. Let's just pull up your asset. Nope, that's not what I want. So you can see specific information. This is the asset or the smart list that you have really can pull information based on the asset from all of these different areas down here also. So if you wanted to see where the physical location was versus the location ID, you could do that. So a lot of people put in their location ID being like the state or the actual location, the building that it's in. And then the physical location can be set up to be who exactly has that, or what floor it's on, or anything like that. The asset label also is like the little sticker that you can put on the bottom of your computers, or your specific asset tag. You can put that in that area. So the manufacturer's name, all of that can be searchable within your columns of your smart list. So if you want to see who the custodian is, or the physical location ID, you can do that. The asset number. So the asset label number. You'll see in here that you have your asset label. The current status of that asset comes from this status right here. If it's active, if it's retired, if it's partially retired. You can see that information up here and pull it into a smart list. This can be given to your auditors if they want to see a list of your assets. Under the books is where you're going to see the net book value. And at this point in time, you can also see the depreciated to date and the daily depreciation rate, the current depreciation amount. All that comes from your book. So when you're looking at your books, you can see from this window what your beginning year cost is, what the cost basis is, the yearly depreciation rate, and we can pull up a better one that's been depreciated. So let's just take a look at this one. Nope, nope, bad asset. Let's see. Let's do this one. Nope. Okay, so it's test data. But anyhow, you can see certain information associated with it. Let's just clear this. Go to the okay, so only mine are working. But if I were to depreciate this, I could get my yearly rate, and my current depreciation. So you can build this out. I've built out these smart lists for what auditors really would like to see, and then you can give them a smart list on that piece. So really take a look at these smart lists. The purchases one just shows which assets have gone through with the purchases piece and have been added to your asset. Here's your asset ID, the suffix, the description, the acquisition cost, who the vendor was. You could probably, I believe that you can pull in the document number right here. So if they want to know what the document was that you purchased this on, you can see it from there, what the document number is. So a lot of good information can come with your smart lists. The last thing I'm going to go over is your financial detail inquiry. So you would think that that would be under financial, but it's actually under fixed assets. And it's a inquiry button. Financial detail right here. This gives you a view of all of the assets and how they've come into your system. What has been depreciated and how much, what has gone to the reserve. So it gives you in totality what what your asset has done. And by removing some of these, you can restrict down to what you want to see from your account types and your document filters. So if you have source doc filters, you could add those in also. But if you just want to see source doc, I don't have anything in here. But if you only wanted to see your depreciation portions and the depreciation itself, you could look up only the depreciation. So this is what has been depreciated for this asset for each of the periods for April of 2025, May, June, July. And I can also print this report to show you from a GL standpoint what the debit is on that piece. So I can get a total fairly quickly on that. I like this window because you can even put on a period filter if you wanted to, so that it would only show if you're having problems with a specific month. But it is for one asset only. So just be aware that you can only do it for one asset. So let me pull open my. Are there any questions? I don't see any questions. So if you do have any questions, you can get a hold of me, Tammy at iscorp.biz, and you can just email me and we can get the answers to your questions, or if you want some help with setup of your fixed assets to make it run more smoother, we can assist with that also. You can also feel free to call the office and you can ask for me, and they'll transfer you over to my extension. Upcoming webinars in 2 weeks is exploring solutions for your business at 1 p.m. So that's the upcoming one. And Chelsea let me know that they're working on June's schedule right now. So there'll be more in June. I appreciate taking your time out to view this webinar, and hopefully you got some good tips on it. And we look forward to seeing you in the future. Thanks.